Howdy howdy! Before we begin, remember to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos which contain certain words which explain certain things. And now, let's go to the 1900s, where things are looking up for poor old Europe. The Industrial Revolution has led to many great inventions in the field of healthcare, education, science, weapons, and even fashion. And in fact, those aforementioned weapons have been improving so much that a war between the great powers in Europe is now almost unimaginable. Yep, the world's got it pretty good. At least if you're not poor, and don't live anywhere else in the entire rest of the world who are going through an unfortunate having war crimes committed by Europe on the moment at the moment. There is, however, one slight issue. You see, Europe in the 1900s was still not fully recovered from those other pesky wars they'd recently been having, and a lot of people had a lot of different views on who should own what. For example, France very much wanted this western part of Germany, and Germany as a fairly new nation was struggling to figure out exactly where it sat, and thought that their rightful borders looked something more like this. This is while the old Austrian-Hungarian and Ottoman empires were in a constant state of telling their residents that they secretly loved being part of their empires, despite their revoltingness. Other than these tiny problems though, Europe was just fine. You see, there's one very lucky thing stopping an all-out war on the continent, and that's the fact that for our own security the UK and Germany have been keeping an eye on each other, through a very good and smart method called building more and more ships than the other can very quickly. You see, at the turn of the century, Germany had updated its laws to add a nice little passage that read, "Screw you." Despite their similar policies, the two sides didn't enjoy the other one being a naval threat, and Britain being an island found the idea of German boats being able to sink English merchant vessels absolutely not very pleasant in the slightest. And as such, the two powers, at the turn of the century, were rapidly expanding their arms, and possibly, secretly hoping that they'd get an excuse to blow each other to little English-German smithereens. Okay, everything's just fine. Britain and Germany may be gearing up for war, France may be eyeing their territory from the Franco-Persian War, and Germany might be looking to secure their place as a European power. But as long as nothing else happens, we should be just fine. But Russia's just lost the Russo-Japanese War, and their people aren't too happy. You see, the Tsar's regime is starting to crumble, and their neighbours are starting to consider war before Russia recovers. France is supporting Italy's claims in Libya, whilst Germany is supporting Moroccan independence against Britain and France, who are now best buddies after recently signing the Entente Cordial. Okay, things are getting a little bit tense. People are starting to sense that war might be inevitable. But tense is fine, and even if a war does break out, it can be limited and subdued quickly. Sure, people are turning blind eyes to nationalism and are blaming other countries for their woes. But as long as nothing else goes wrong, Europe can still enjoy the rewards of the technological advancements they've made, and... As we were speaking, some nationalism seems to have risen again, this time in Bosnia, a little province in Austria-Hungary that has been stirring up trouble. But everything should be fine, just as long as... Hold on. A group called Young Bosnia have been supplied by an arm of the Serbian military called the Black Hand in order to try and kill the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, because a lot of them believe Serbia should be a little bigger and include all Serbs in a greater Serbian state. Now, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand is a guy who was meant to rule Austria-Hungary after this guy's death, and the Duke had plans to give the Slavic people their own kingdom within the empire when he becomes emperor, something which could threaten the big Serbia idea. This is a big deal. Europe currently is one big pile of matches, and if Franz Ferdinand is assassinated, this could potentially set off a spark that could ignite all of Europe. But don't worry, everything is fine, because it's the 28th of June, the day the Archduke is set to be assassinated, and his car has arrived, but the assassins have done nothing. In fact, two of the assassins have just watched the car go idly by, another one has swallowed a faulty cyanide pill after his bomb bounced off the Duke's car and wounded 16 to 20 people, and the others are yet to be seen. Thank goodness. Everything is just fine, and the Duke is giving a speech to the people. Fantastic. The speech is done. and we're discussing security arrangements for the Duke. The Duke's Chamberlain suggests that considering that whole attempted assassination thing, that perhaps soldiers should be placed on the streets, or the Duke should wait for an armed escort. Or, said the Governor-General, the Duke should go back without any additional security. I mean, do you think that Sarajevo is full of assassins? It turns out, however, Sarajevo was full of assassins, because one assassin has placed himself outside a popular food shop in the city. Luckily, this is not a store along the Duke's route. Unfortunately, however, it is a food shop on the road that the Duke's car has just unfortunately taken a wrong turn onto, and it's also a shop on the road that the Duke's car has decided to stall at, whilst on the way to visit those injured in the previous attempt. Oh dear. Okay, things are no longer fine. It's July and there's a crisis. A July crisis. You see, the heir to the Austria-Hungarian throne has just been killed by a Bosnian from Serbia. This is looking real bad. And in fact, Austria-Hungary are now declaring war on Serbia. The issue is that Serbia is allied with Russia, who is allied with France and Britain, who are now at war with Germany because Germany is allied with the Austrian-Hungarians, and oh look, the Ottomans and Italians are joining in. It's war in Europe. Luckily, the war shouldn't last longer than a few months, right? Make sure to subscribe for a future video explaining how this war will in fact last considerably longer than a few months. Thanks for staying tuned. I'll see you next time.